Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Snapping Towels for season two. I'm Cam Williams, joined by my partner, as always, Kyle Foote.
Hello, everybody. This has been far too long, but I'm happy to be back.
Yeah, no, it was a good little break. We caught I think one solid episode during the PLL season. This will be a nice opportunity for us to, I think, give a little bit of a recap of the season, the playoffs, how it ended, how the PLL performed as a business, and then really provide a little preview of what we're hoping to see from some of the programs around the country for fall ball.
No doubt. I think part of the problem we had with the PLL and recording every week and trying to sound like what we knew what we were talking about was every week was kind of up in the air on who we thought would win because every team is so good. And I think the outcome kind of proved that theory to be perfectly true. Also, today, a little snafu. I had my iced matcha in my hand. It felt like the first day of school. Those fall vibes are kicking in. I'm rushing in to hop on this podcast with Cam and I was holding like four different drinks for some reason. Of course, the matcha pew, Gronk spiked on the ground. So, Steve, cue the picture. I'll show it to Cam. I took a picture of what it looked like in this place, but it led to some serious floor cleaning.
Oh no! Honestly, that just looks like vomit on the floor.
Yeah,
Looks like
it's
Photoshop vomit on the floor.
yeah, yeah. It tastes like a milkshake though, so I'm down with it. But
Post
yeah, so
F45.
it's been a good off season, I'd say. But the fall
Let's not
vibes,
first. Let's not sell our listeners short. I want to make it clear that is a post F45 matcha.
yeah, I earned it. I earned that one. But you couldn't pay me to be on time to a class back in the day. So I guess it just makes sense that these fall, like it just happens this time of year where it's like you get on the bus and drop your water on your pants the first day of school type shit. But yeah, no, it's been good. It feels good to be back, and I'm excited for our fall slate. We got a lot of guests. We're gonna have fall ball scrimmage knowledge. We got a lot of returners, so I'm excited.
That we do. I'm actually going to a fall ball event tomorrow. I believe it's called the Boys of Fall Brawl in Hudson, Ohio tomorrow. We've got a pretty good slate. We've got Ohio State taking on Robert Morris at 12:30. Can't wait to watch that game. There'll be great players all over the field. Always love watching Robert Morris. Definitely a unique flavor of lacrosse, particularly down on the offensive end.
Mm.
And then we have Robert Morris against Division two powerhouse Mercyhurst. I think the thing I'm most anxious for tomorrow is to see what Mercyhurst has. I want to see the a Division two powerhouse, see if they can stack up against the starters of a Division one mid major like Robert Morris. So I think that'll be a pretty interesting day.
That's a gritty day.
It is a gritty day.
I hope the sun peeps out for you.
I think it's supposed to. I think it's gonna be a
That's
nice day in Hudson.
that's an early fall ball grind, and I love that you're going to that. That's awesome. Unfortunately, out in Southern California, there's no fall ball to be had.
Yeah, we need eyes on programs early.
We do.
We want to deliver the best possible product to you this spring. So we're going to be as familiar with these programs as possible. Going to be going to fall ball events live. Hopefully, able to stream some fall ball events. And as we mentioned earlier, we'll have as many players on this fall to give you the inside scoop on what's going on with these programs.
Yeah, that's bad. But let's hit the PLL, talk what happened in these
How about those
playoffs.
water dogs?
All I know is Barstool owns the team and they give them a lot of shit for no reason. And all they talk about is how they suck. So I haven't heard like any follow ups from them. I'm sure they mentioned it on one of their podcasts for about 10 minutes, but they owe them something big. Because,
Well, as Dave, Stu, and Big Cat make clear on a weekly basis during football season, a hungry dog runs faster. Okay, and the Water Dogs were very very hungry, led by Michael Sowers and Kieran McCardle. Is really and can't forget Dylan Ward, who prior to the playoffs, had the privilege of being on a conference call with my co-host Kyle and his brother Eric, and we were talking about goaltenders. Kyle
Naturally.
Kyle
Just
mentioned that, yeah, exactly.
lacrosse
Kyle mentioned
debate
that
breaks out.
Kyle mentioned that Blaze Reardon, was making a case to be the best goalie of all time. I interjected quickly and said Dylan Ward also has a case to be made.
This is true.
With his save percentage in college at Bellarmine, with his world championship in 2014, taking on an all-time USA team, what he did in the MLL. I'm pretty sure he won a championship in the MLL with the Denver Outlaws, and now a PLL champion, and his box resume. I think Dylan Ward, I think on paper, is the greatest goalie to ever play the game.
Wow.
You got to love the high arc too. The big body and the high arc, you got to love.
We could talk positioning for a while, but I think he might be the clutchest goaltender of all time. I think
most clutch
in big games, he's showing up. It's never one of those things where he's in a big game and you're down 6 goals early.
Definitely not. He's coming to play.
As far as stats, I think those might hurt him. Like overall percentages, I should have this knowledge, but I know they're not in the all-time category, which might have the media higher ups, as you could say.
We're hoping for season 3 we'll have a stat guy where we can just say,
yeah,
Frankie, what was Dylan Ward's save percentage as a pro?
That's next level. That would be next season for sure. Hopefully, if we get picked up by some of these
if Friday beers will pick us up.
If these sponsors keep knocking on our door, maybe we could accept an offer one of these days. But I think Blaze Reardon is better. I think he's more consistent. But there is a thing to be said about the high arc and the way they play goalie, which is like an old school style that was lost for a certain period. Only a couple people did it. And like now it's back just with the best. But you see mainly college goalies and pro goalies, other than these two guys who have box backgrounds, play this absurdly high arc. And they're both bigger bodies, I guess. So it's just an interesting kind of recipe to see this goaltender be so quick, so big, and play this like kind of abnormal style. I think the two best in the world right now do it. So it's interesting. And Bernlohr is in that conversation too. We cannot talk about him.
Right. I mean, he's a 2-time PLL champion. Didn't win a national championship, but played in a lot of Final Fours. I had the privilege of playing against him in high school. Huge recruit, great player. So definitely Bernlohr, Blaze Reardon, Dylan Ward, pick your poison, top 3 in the world right now. I think they're definitely in a class of their own. When I run through the league, I think those 3 are definitely in a class of their own. I want to pay homage to some of the OGs, Tillman Johnson, Greg Catrano, Billy Day, old school Cannons goalie. I want to pay homage to those guys. But I really do think that Dylan Ward and Blaze Reardon have put themselves in a class of their own in the all-time ranks. And I'm going to give Dylan Ward the edge just because of the world championship and what he did in 2014 against, a really high-powered Team USA. Just love the way that guy plays, man. Awesome in the clearing game, and that high arc, that big body high arc. I know I never played against Dylan Ward. I did play against Blaze Reardon 3 or 4 times. That high arc is hard, man. You don't have a lot of cage to shoot at. It really can throw you, makes you think. Blaze Reardon particularly takes up a lot of the cage as is. But it's like you got 5 hole and that's it. It seems like.
Yeah, I mean there are holes in it, so I'm not going to sit here and like.
But from a step down shooting perspective, when you're in tight and you're making the move, you end up having, it seems like, the whole 6x6 to shoot at in certain windows. But when you're from a step down shooter perspective, from I'd say 8 and out, that 8 to 13 range, or I guess now 8 to 15, there's not a lot of cage to shoot at, and it's tough to zing one by these guys from deep.
Yeah, I mean, the first team goalie, the goalie, first team all PL goalie was Kyle Bernlohr. And if the Whip Snakes win or the Chaos win, we're not talking about Dylan Ward. So it's the fact that he's so clutch. We've talked about PL goaltenders for far too long now, but I will say it was his performance down the stretch that leads us to be talking about him in
One thing we have to,
or
one thing
even
we
in
have to,
the best of
one,
all time.
one thing we have to
So
throw in there, and we got to give Blaze Reardon some credit. We'll get off the PLL
he was
goaltenders
second team. He was
in,
second team.
in a minute. He's the defending PLL MVP, and to be that
Correct.
as a goaltender
Yeah.
and win the championship in the same season, what the Chaos did last year, pretty incredible.
And they were close to winning it this year, but I love
Also,
how
yeah, speaking of the Chaos, coming from 2-7,
this is why
right?
we didn't do the show throughout the pros. Because if we're trying to predict what's going to happen this league, that's the biggest allure for me and this league. I think that's the best thing it has going for it is
Parity.
that anybody could win.
Parity.
You
Yeah, I mean
know, and
The Chaos were 2-7, and they slipped into the playoffs because the Cannons are horrendous. Cannons were never going to make it. The Chaos slip in after all their guys being out first 3 or 4 games because they were in a dogfight NLL championship series on the Mammoth. They come in and they still don't win a bunch of games. They just lose a lot of close games. And I think the whole year, the whole summer, Kyle and I were on the phone saying, you don't want to play the Chaos. I don't care if they're 1-7, 2-7, 4-4, whatever. You don't want to play the Chaos in the championship or in the championship series.
also it's the only sport other than football that has a playoff one and done. Every
Yep.
other major league sport's a series. I think that brings like an
Urgency.
extremely exciting factor to it, where
Urgency.
it is a March Madness type feel in the postseason in July, or even early August. But uh, yeah. And then one other guy I want to mention while we're talking PLL is Kieran McCardle because he didn't even make the All-Star game. He got absolutely snubbed.
He got snubbed.
He's leading the league in points. Quiet guy, not very social on the outlets and the platforms, but like
He's actually second in the league in points behind Lyle. He had 42 points. Lyle had 44.
Yeah, respect his game. It's like I
Yep.
don't know. It's kind of, and I'm happy for him because he played not really big time college ball and then has never won it in the pros. And now,
But he's been a consummate pro since his time with the launch.
yeah,
He's always been a problem, always been a tough cover. And now as he's gotten a little bit older, he's still a pretty effective dodger, but he's done a really nice job of showcasing the fact that he's an excellent shooter, an excellent finisher in tight.
well, that's always been his gig. It wasn't dodging even when he was younger. Like it was his finishing.
Really at St.
He was
John's,
a little bit. No, I think he was a little bit
pretty
more of
silky
like
dodger at St.
a
John's.
Josh Byrne type dodger, but
Okay.
I always think he was a finisher. Like it was never a 5-4 game. It was like a 6.
Led the league in assists this year
Well, that's creative.
with 23.
Pulled
So he had
that-
a hell of a year. I think
pulled that one
probably
out of a hat.
probably his seventh or eighth
I'm not
year in
saying
the
he
pros.
can't feed the pebble. I'm saying that he's not primarily a dodger.
No, but he had a hell of a
He's
year.
got the eye. I want to
he
see
had a
how
hell
much
of
of
a-
those, how many of those came off a dodge.
Yeah, right. He had a hell of a year. I think he and Michael Sowers are quite the combo,
It's great.
especially at this stage in Kieran's career.
Yeah. I mean, you just hope a guy like Sowers stays healthy. The Water Dogs had a great coaching. I thought it was honestly one of the only teams that, and a big problem I have with the PLL is the coaching still a little bit like, oh, these are my guys. Like it's not truly professional in my eyes the way the coaches handle the players in terms of next man up. If this guy's old and not doesn't really have it, I know we talked about it last year before the season with like all the old guys retiring, essentially sprouting the chrome back. They had a great year coming from the worst team in the league because they lost all this like baggage that they were carrying around, where guys just didn't know when to hang it up. And I think that's a testament to these old legendary college coaches keeping around their old players for whatever reason, and their impact being less and less every year, bringing the team down as well. I think the Water Dogs are a great example why you shouldn't have a culture like that.
Yeah, and I want to give the Water Dogs some credit in the draft as well. Drafting Michael Sowers, I think first overall last year, correct?
Yeah.
Being patient with him through injuries, not panicking, finally coming back 100% healthy and being as effective as ever. Also, this year, Jack Hanna was a hell of a draft pick. I
That
mean,
he's a pro.
yeah, and he's at the coming out of the midfield, fifth in points as a rookie, fifth in rookie points this year.
Mm.
Um, he
Well,
really proved to be valuable down the stretch. He can score in a lot of different ways. We were in love with him last spring for the Pios, kind of one of their only bright spots. But yeah, really want to give a lot of credit to Coach Copeland and the Water Dog staff for drafting well. Love the Jack Hanna draft pick. I see him as a 7-year staple in the pros.
I mean, he'll play as long as he wants. It seems like
Yeah.
he's got the bag of tricks. But in
Also,
terms of
Connor Kelly put together a hell of a year. Second in the league in midfield point scoring.
yep,
Yeah, much respect to that.
yeah, and I think
Four 2-pointers.
like first to worst, the two teams that kind of you know every season are counted on to do something is the Archers and the Atlas, and both first round exits. Uh, I think that's primarily coaching because the talent's there. If the Water Dogs can put together a championship run, so could either of those teams with who they have on both sides of the ball. But
Is it time
Archer,
to blow the Archers up?
I think it's been time. I think I mean, you've got a couple core pieces that you don't want to lose, but flush it and make it a little younger and different. And I think primarily on the defensive end. I don't think their offense was a problem. I think their turnovers can get a little crazy, but you notice how like no one's talking about Grant Ament this postseason, not getting a lot of awards, started out injured, never really got into a flow, throws a really hard ball to catch. So like there's a lot of turnovers in that aspect of his
True.
game that no one
True.
talks about. Like a low high risers, not
Yeah,
necessarily
that's a great
like
point. To Kyle's point there, when just for our listeners, hard ball to catch. As amazing as Grant Ament is, the ball is coming from a lot of different trajectories. As low to high riser, 3/4 sidearm. That's true. There are a lot of
you
turnovers that
know
result from that.
not
Um,
looking like I think a no look is very fluid, and I think there's a big place in the game for it. And I think all the different pass he throws are there, but if your other guy's not on the same page, I don't care how nice the pass was. It's a blow. It's like it's a turnover. So
I think he's
essentially,
got two of the best no. I think he has two of the best no look receivers in the league in Schreiber and Manny.
well, late in the
Um,
season, Manny was running out of the box, and they put Connor Fields at the
yeah,
attack. So like, we might have to have an
yeah,
interview,
it
like
was odd.
somebody on to talk about that. Well, Manny was having a hell of a year early, and then they just try to wrinkle this in. When I thought the problem's always been the defensive end. They're
Yeah,
they're flirting
to
with
your
Gittleman and Dobson.
so to your point, I'm going to bring that up right now. To your point, back to PLL goaltenders, of course. We want to talk about a youth movement here. Gittleman's saving the ball below a 50% clip, and that's just not going to get it done. All right, you drafted this goalie. You drafted Brett
Yeah,
Dobson. He's the heir apparent. I think week 1 of 2023, Brett Dobson needs to be between the pipes. We got to see what this
just
kid
feed him.
has.
Yeah,
We got to see what he has. We got to find the Archers need to find out, is this our goaltender of the future? Edelman has put together a hell of a career, national champion, great pro. It's time,
and
in my opinion.
also, yeah, no, I think you're right. Oh, sorry, I just hit the mic. But also, you have on the defensive end, uh, there was an interesting situation I saw in the middle of the season. I think it really got exploited uh, when the Archers played the Whip Snakes. Sorry, and you've got who's that UVA poll, the LSM.
Honors.
If Jared Connors taking over the role at LSM, so what is the Princeton coach name too? I'm completely
Um,
blacking out. I'm still in summer. Uh, I'll find it. Hold on one sec.
Chris Bates.
Chris Bates throws Ratliff on close, and he's
Oh,
just
against
against the
against
Rambo.
Rambo. He's guarding Rambo, and Rambo even said in the interview after the game, they said,
It's
what
too
just Rambo
easy.
went off.
It's too
Rambo went
easy.
off,
It happened.
and
It happened when they played the Atlas and he was or the Chaos and he was guarding
yep,
Cloutier.
it
It
was
kept
it was a nightmare. And
and
I'm a
that's
big Ratliff fan. One of the I think an absolute all timer, but just walking off the bus. I mean, just stand them next to each other. Ratliff and Rambo. Rambo's game is literally initiating contact
mouse in the house.
against a pole at any size, no matter who it is, whether it's Tucker Durkin in his prime or a tiny little Scott Ratliff. No disrespect, but it was a joke, and he said it in the interview. He said, "I mean, I'm just twice his size. It was too easy."
Yeah.
Credit to Zed Williams, who is now officially a fridge. He's a Sub-Zero refrigerator, and it makes it a little bit difficult. You don't know who to put your large pole on, whether it's Rambo
You
or
put it
Zed's
on
huge.
Zed. You put it on
Exactly.
Zed, but you
So
got
credit to Zed.
these guys are trees. Everyone has poles, like a couple poles that can guard some big guys. But you don't take your smallest defender in LSM, old
Yeah, who's a long stick
LSM,
midfielder.
who's in the
Yeah,
back end of his career, and put him on arguably an MVP of the league, depending on the year.
maybe
Yeah.
the toughest cover depending on the day.
So that
Yeah,
and it kept happening. And Kluch,
it was a joke.
and it's like you could see their season going down the drain, and that was just a microcosm of the problem. And it's like
Yeah,
offensive inconsistency, then you have defensive holes like that, and then they haven't invested in a Fogo ever, so they like, and then they have goalie trouble. So it's an easy thing to see that all happening and why they can't put it together, even though they have tour and finalists and winners down the board offensively, which is
yeah.
unfortunate.
And one guy we didn't mention on offense who had a really made a big time impact was Matt Moore.
Oh
He's
yeah.
ready made for the PLL, an absolute nightmare coming out of the box. I think on a lot of PLL teams he'd be an attackman. Um,
Yeah.
Maybe I think it's a unique situation where you can roll him out of the box, and he's kind of their fifth option. Offensively, he's pretty much guaranteed to have a short stick on him.
Uh, I think he's the second option out of the midfield because
No,
Schreiber's.
I'm saying overall, amen.
Yeah, but like those guys, like I don't think their first option is for them to dodge pulls. Like the whip snakes, you could argue that you'd want Zed or Rambo primarily with the ball, game on the line. Like
Yeah,
I think they want more dodging a short stick over at least
I would agree with that. It's an
two out
automatic
of
slide.
three, attackmen, and definitely the other middies. And Schreiber takes a pull.
Aside from Schreiber, yeah,
Yeah, he takes a pull, but it's only like when they're desperate and he needs to push. It's not like he's firing out of the box. And that was the biggest problem I have with the Atlas too. Get me started on them. Average goaltending, unbelievable possession with Trevor Baptiste winning the MVP of the league as a Fogo.
Trevor Baptiste is arguably the best player in the league. Yeah,
But then you have
most
like
dominant.
an unbelievable start of the season with Gray and Teat, and they're getting going, and you're putting kids in and out of the lineup. There's no fluidity in the lineup. So then you get to the end of the year postseason, and it's kind of like by the end of the year, you saw Costabile really forcing it every chance he could. He had a very down year for what he's used to, which is unfortunate.
Agreed.
He's a great player, but it was just kind of in his head. You could see even on man up, he'd take like 4 deep twos, high bouncers that were just like
I
completely.
want to see more from Bucaro.
Bukar was completely average. Like
I want to see more from him.
he got his chances, and he's a great player.
Did he have enough chances?
Oh, dude, he was like he couldn't do wrong in Rubier's eyes. And I watched a lot of Atlas games, and I saw a lot of chances where he got a 2-man game with T, or he got a short stick, a go from behind on a short stick, or a top
Low
wing.
wing.
Everything he had was there. He just had sloppy turnovers and bad like kind of dodging into trouble situations more than good. And then you get Dennis, who comes out of the box, gets sat a couple games, comes out the box last, and every team's bumping a pull to him, and you have Costabile and whoever you put with him having a shorty. So it's like arguably your best dodger out of the midfield. You sit for 4 games or 3 games at the beginning of the year. It was just kind of like a storm. And I think their defense is a little old, and that's the same thing with coaches keeping guys around. I
They
see
are a little old on the defensive end.
they need some youth, and they got Colby Smith in between the lines, but like he split shifts and
Kobe Smith is legit.
yeah, I mean, I hope like he's gonna age great. I think he's got the body, and I think
And
it's
Danny Logan is still the best short stick defensive midfielder on the
so
planet.
that's the thing. It's like how do you lose so many games on the back end of the season when your rope doesn't change? Like your rope's arguably the best in the PLL, which is a massive advantage. And you have all-stars all over the field on offense. And defense, you could argue you have all-stars too, because Kincannon and Durkin and
another guy that I wish we had seen more from was Caraway.
Didn't play, and what he did play, he had like a couple goals.
Yeah.
And he floods the lineup with Crowley, who's like an old average short stick dodger feeder guy. Like that.
Credit to them. They did end up moving off Crawley and bringing in I think Clark Pedersen was kind of the roster spot they filled.
I think that makes
and
sense.
He's a nice fit. He's obviously a nice fit with Teat. But even with Chris Gray and Law, he fits in well. I like Pedersen. I'm kind of surprised he was available. Isn't he excellent in the NLL?
Yeah, he's a top.
I'm surprised he was available so late in the year.
I mean, it makes sense to be that he's not a top 4 attackman on each team.
I know, but to be available come August or late July, early August.
If you sit if you're being sat, anyone can pick you up. He was just sitting in the player pool. So all these players.
Was he on a roster though?
No.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm surprised he wasn't on a roster.
But yeah, I think they kind of shot themselves in the foot the way, like, just the lack of offensive scheme and turnovers and careless play down the stretch, and along with not having any continuity, I think was the perfect storm.
One team I want to give a lot of love to for the year they put together, and the bleak history that they've had is the Chrome.
Unreal, just grinders.
Yeah. I mean, was hoping to see them perform a little bit better once the postseason hit, but they're young. To go 7-3, probably I think historically the worst team in the league. Wouldn't you say? Kind of, if you put the last 3 years together, probably the worst team in the league.
Chrome? Oh yeah.
Excellent. I mean, to bring in Brendan Nixon and Logan Wisnauskas, and for those two to do what they did, a lot of fun to watch those two. And I think Dylan Malloy is a great fit with those two. Yeah, so Dylan Malloy, I mean, credit to him. He looks absolutely shredded. For Dylan Malloy to be 5 years out now and to have a better body than he did when he graduated, it's very clear that he's really invested in his fitness and diet. And as an analyst of the game, I see Dylan Malloy having a longer, more sustainable career than I would have envisioned 2-3 years ago. So credit to him. The Chrome have done a hell of a job. I think they're loaded with talent, and they're definitely a top 1, 2, or 3 seed favorite heading into 2023.
I love that. Yeah, I think they drafted great. I think their draft picks panned out, more offensive minded. But then you got a stud goaltender.
Credit to Tim Soudan.
Yeah, I mean, he did what essentially a lot of other coaches in the league should look at doing.
Youth movement, baby.
Unless they want to repeat. There's a lot of guys in the player pool that are really good. And there's a lot of guys coming out of college in these next 2 years that are really, really good. So we'll see what happens.
Especially with this fifth and sixth year kids. A lot of men coming out of college in the next 2 years that are going to make a big, big impact in the next 5 to 10 years in the PLL. A lot.
Absolutely. Let's talk Cannons. Then we're hopping into college.
The Cannons continue to disappoint. I said it in July or whenever we shot our PLL midseason episode.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be a bigger fan of Lyle Thompson and what he's done for the game,
here.
What he's accomplished. I definitely, just to steal vernacular from Kark, definitely on the Mount Rushmore, top 3 or 4 player ever. I'm not going to argue if somebody says he's the best. Maybe you can make that argument. It's difficult to watch him, and I don't think he's really lost a step. He's just as effective in creating, an opportunity for himself or a teammate. But to watch him in 2022 with this 52-second shot clock, once Lyle's got the ball, it seems like there's 38, 35 seconds left on the shot clock. Once the Cannons have their subs in, you've cleared the ball, and you got Lyle on a high wing, his back to the cage, kind of looking like it's 2014 and he's in some America East matchup against, I don't know, Stony Brook or UMBC. It's a different game. It's a different time. And to me, a lot of Cannons possessions that I watched this year, ended with a kind of a Hail Mary look in the waning seconds of the shot clock. And a lot of that was due to Lyle kind of holding the ball on a stick for too long. So the Cannons they've got some other personnel issues. I'm not going to pin it all on Lyle, but to be 1-9 with arguably the greatest player ever on attack, it's just not a good look.
I agree. And I do agree about him on the Mount Rushmore. Definitely one of my top players of all time. We don't need to get into, what the old heads think. And, what he's done for the game is him and his brother and his whole family is absurd. The Cannons are a funky team. They took Paul Rabel for a lot of draft picks, and now we see it kind of biting them because Paul's no longer on the team. He did give them a solid year, no longer in the league, and they gave the Atlas all of their draft picks. I think the Atlas draft 1 and 3 next season because of that trade, and those should be Cannon picks. So they're kind of going to fall on the sword that way in a sense. I think Brody Merrill played his 400th game. Pro 200th.
200th. But
200th. I mean, how many they have?
They have tied the all-time ground ball record. I don't think he ended up eclipsing it, did he? I think he tied it.
We'll have our statologist check that out. Statistician.
I think he ended up.
But he's one of the guys where maybe you make him a D coordinator, and
I think he can still play.
I think he can still play too. But if you watch, I don't think he's. If you watch a lot, it's a lot like Tucker Durkin, where they're busy communicating and head's always on a swivel. It's just I'm not saying he's getting beat straight up or he's a size. There's nothing physically. I just think
I think he should be the second pole. I think
he's definitely the second. He's the third. He
should be your second pole, taking kind of supplementing runs for young guys. I think he can still be effective on wings. I still like him out there. He's a big body, as good a ground ball guy as there is still.
I'm not saying he can't play. I'm just saying it's not goaltending. Goaltending was 50%. So they're up there in the league average. The high is 55 or 58 with the Whip Snakes, Berlor, first team. And the low's 43 with the Redwoods.
Yeah, Stephen Kelly at 49%. Sorry.
Goaltending.
Morocco at 50. Yeah, Morocco at 50.
Yeah, and later in the season, we saw the surge of Colin Kurse. I think he's the takeover. So I think they're going in the right direction. We love Donville. He's getting in the mix out of the midfield for the Cannons.
We do love Donville. They need to improve the face-off X.
100%. It's a little bit
Um,
that it's a little bit of the Archers kind of look right now
correct.
with with mediocre goaltending and horrendous face-off play. So, if you juggle those things and mix that bag up, I think you could easily have a different record. I think Lyle will be Lyle, and you'll kind of live with his turnovers if he's going to get you almost 50 goals on the year. Uh, I
But I think
don't.
they got to initiate out of the midfield more. Can't be so much Lyle because
I
Lyle can
mean,
do a
he's
lot of things. He
he's
can he
also
can play
taking,
within an offense.
and I don't think it's sustainable for him to be doing what he's doing. Like
Definitely not
he gets
physically
racked
sustainable.
up every game.
Yeah.
He's getting older. His points won't dwell. He won't start missing the cage. So I think if you do fold him in a nice offense and get some other Dodgers to complement him who can beat people besides Rafus, who's like your second best Dodger,
And
uh,
Drenner.
at Drenner, obviously.
Drenner's great out of the box. Love Drenner.
I'd even like him at attack. Like,
Yeah, I think they have a lot invested in Asher Nolting. I think if you want to talk attack, look, Mark Cochran's had a great career. He's a great finisher. Um,
he's bounced
but
around to a bunch of teams. I think he's
but to
pretty
be
one.
23% shooting and you're the Canadian finisher on the left hand side is not going to cut it. It's not going to
Yeah.
cut it. It's time for a new third attackman for the Cannons. I was about to say in Boston, but no, for the Cannons LC. Time for a new lefty finisher. But I like the Drenner, Rafus, Donville first three. And in respect to Aslanian, this kid out of Hobart who came in mid-season.
It was
I don't even
just
think he
about
had
to
a.
talk about him. Yeah,
I don't even think
he
he had
was
a
in the
name
play.
on the back.
Dude,
He didn't have a name on the back of his jersey the first game.
he was
He
in
was
the
just running
player
out of the
pool.
box, stinging it. Yeah,
He was in the player pool, which is insane. And it's like you have a guy like Crowley starting for the Atlas, and you have this kid in the player pool as an absolute cannon on him who rains 2 pointers. Just that's the part of the coaching where I'm like, I don't know what these guys like. It's that's the difference in this professional league to other professional leagues. It there's never like a relationship that like you realize it's business first and the team like the team needs to win for the money to come in pro sports and they
and they've
don't
got two
care.
awesome D middies too.
They've got a great rope. They have a terrible faceoff guy.
Fairman and Goodrich, Bubba and Zach Goodrich
Zach Goodrich is neck and neck. I mean, if he
with
doesn't
Danny
win,
Logan.
yeah,
He's neck and neck with Danny Logan.
it's
Absolutely.
I think Goodrich takes more chances and doesn't have a faceoff
Agreed.
guy that gets him the ball every time. Like
So I also think
Danny
Danny Logan
Logan.
is a little bit more of a threat on the offensive end. I mean, I've seen Danny Logan can 2 pointers. So,
Yeah, you can rip it.
but Zach Goodrich and Danny Logan are neck and neck in terms of covering an effective short stick. Those two guys, I think, are shoe-ins for Team USA. But I was going to kind of dog on the Cannons personnel. It's not bad. You replace Cockerton with a nice draft pick.
It's kind of weak though. It's kind of weak. Like looking at the rest of the league, like
I think their defense needs a lot of work.
Trenner's great, but he's never been held on a roster. Like every team, every expansion, every team's let him drift. Obviously gets picked up and he's a great player, but like he's very much so not like a role player. He's a great role player, probably a top role player in the league. You could call him like a young James Harden. But then
he is a James Harden out there.
Then your guy's Rafus, who's a great player as well. And then Donville. They're just young. They're young, but you have no one that's like gonna roast people out of the midfield. It's all very much like watch Lyle play offense.
No, that's the problem. I do think Drenner can roast people out of the midfield, but it's just too much of. It's 2014 and Lyle's playing against Stony Brook, and
back to that.
Look, that's not what it is. It's not what it is. Yeah. So,
anyways, we'll be excited about the PLL. Next season we could have a couple more episodes talking about it, but that was the recap of the season. Not to cut it short, but
we
could talk about the Cannons roster for 2
I I,
episodes.
I do want to touch on just the PLL in general
Mm,
from a business perspective. I think it's worth noting some of their engagement milestones that they hit. And I got them in front of me on my iPad.
mm.
Let's see. So just a few things. Ticket sales year over year up 24%, four sellouts. I think that's pretty legit.
Love it. I think the
I
sellouts were at smaller arenas, but
Yeah. Well,
I'll take it.
that's got to be the model. I mean, they got to be. There's it's so much more special, in my opinion, to be watching it at a packed Homewood than
Mm.
I don't
Gillette.
know.
Gillette.
Yeah, just doesn't do it for me. But four sellouts, that's legit. All right. So respect to Paul and Mike. The MLL never sold out. A high school stadium. Um, let's see, 16.7 million engagements on social. The video views on social were up 119% year over year. 355 million impressions and viewership, which is the real stat that's important, right? The real money here
Mm-hmm.
is made in TV. It's not going to be ticket sales, probably not going to be jersey sales. 26% year over year increase in viewership. Average of 157,000 people are watching these games. That's pretty good. You had 452,000 in June watch Cannons Archers. Lyle. That's Lyle.
Lyle puts fans in the stands.
He does.
Also, yeah, I mean, partnering with ESPN is a huge reason for those numbers. I feel
They've
like
done a hell of a job.
step in the right direction. The crew getting Kark, that's what we wanted last year. We were talking about getting
Yep.
Kark, getting Quint, getting a niche, all the boys on these PLL games
Also, credit to Ryan Boyle. He does a
along
great
with
job.
Boyle. Yeah, who stays
He does an
true.
awesome job.
Yeah,
He's really great. I think they need to cut the under the helmet.
I don't mind it actually. I thought it was phony like the first year.
I
Uh,
think there are like two or three guys that are really good under the helmet, but I think most of them aren't that good. And also, there's always a tech issue, sound issue, something. I don't know.
I'm a
I just
fan of
think
it. I don't think it's going anywhere. I think other sports might get into something like that. I think they get rid of the sideline report after the goal or whatever. Like when the
it's
reporter's on the sideline, be like,
yeah, I
"Hey, how's
agree.
that?" And the guy
These
who
guys are out of breath. They just took two runs up and down the field, and
yeah,
then we missed the face off because
yeah,
somebody's on the sideline interviewing Aslanian after he rips one down the alley.
and
I think that could go.
and um, they're like eager to go back in. Like no guy wants to be like talking to cameras. I mean, Miles Jones is a different story. He has no problem taking the lid off and giving a detailed response on how he ripped a goal or gave a crazy assist. But like
Which he has plenty of.
all the guys that are like more team oriented people don't want to take the attention away from the team and their momentum. They want to stay on the wave of
Quite a
what.
shot there at Miles.
Well, I think he's a media person. He's
Yeah, I mean
already
he's
like he could be doing that sideline reporting job. He's already on ESPN college games. Like you can tell that's where his career's going. He's not one to be like eager to jump back in the box to take the next shift if they get the ball. I guess sometimes it might happen. I'm not saying he gets sapped, but he's very much generous to the person reporting, whereas other people
yeah, he is.
might not even take the lid off and might be like, yeah, it was a good play offensively, and then they're gone. They're in the box. So
I will say nobody's better at kind of owning the awkwardness that is the technical issues on the under the
Dan
helmet than
Boyle,
Ryan Boyle. He's
yeah,
great. He's great at diffusing it. He's really
yeah,
great at it.
yeah. It's a little bit dead air, and then he's like,
Yeah.
all right, it's good. That's why I don't mind it, and I think it's cool. Like in the NFL, all I want is to be able to hear the conversation that the offensive coordinator is feeding the quarterback in between snaps. Like I want to hear the play come in. And even if I don't know what it means, I think it would be very interesting to see like how much of it is the quarterback calling the play in the huddle, like at Aaron Rodgers or Brady, or how much of it is the offensive coordinator saying, repeat these words kind of thing.
And
So
how much of a play is truly ad-libbing?
yeah.
Um,
Anyways,
yeah.
I think the under helmet could stay. I think we'll see it more sports. I think the sidelining during the play could take a back seat in my eyes. Like,
I understand the access angle. I know Paul wants access. I get that.
yeah, but
So
it's like, yeah, even yeah. And one dude that I will say was probably one of Ryan Boyle's favorite people in the league this year was Charlie Bertrand. We didn't talk Redwoods at all. They were kind of terrible. They've got
Bertrand put together a hell of a year, and credit to
dude,
Rob Pinnell for having quite a resurgence this year. I'll give
look at
him
us just going on a PLL rant.
quite a resurgence from Pinnell this year. He did some amazing things, but Charlie Bertrand needs to be talked about more. He needs to be a guy that people will talk more about Team USA with. I mean,
Dude,
he'd be a great third midfielder on a line, getting a short stick. You can drop him in pretty much any offense, and he's kind of I love him, total chameleon.
that's the thing. It's like if he's on Whip Snakes or a team that contends,
He's on an Archers with that ball
people
slinging
are
around.
people are freaking out about Charlie Bertrand, but he's on the Redwoods, and Perkovic and Jones are hucking twos and throwing ridiculous
In the
skip
parking lot.
passes. And then when it's the RP3 show, it's like, but every time he got the ball and people gave it to him, it was a behind the back corner or through the legs or some top 10. And
Quite efficient this year. Quite efficient. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
unbelievably efficient. And I mean, his shot percentage was 42% from the midfield, tied with Jeff Teat, who's arguably one of the best finishers in the league. So
Most of Jeff Teat's opportunities are 5 and in, 6 and in. So respect to
yeah,
Bertrand.
yeah.
All right, let's move on.
College ball. College, it's the fall. Co-eds are filled. People are back in the dorms.
How about Terry Foy dropping a way too early top 20?
I'll get to that, but I was going to say I'm jealous. I'm not jealous of the workouts these kids are doing off season, but I'm jealous.
You wish you were back in Charm City.
Put me on Charles Street tomorrow. No. Yeah, I thought that, top 20 is whatever. It's
It's kind of fun. I'm glad he dropped it. I think
it's
Michigan doesn't deserve to be anywhere
he's
near
a
it,
little
but
he's a little horned up for the season,
yeah,
which I like.
I thought it was
But
fun. I'm glad he did it.
uh I think he's underestimating Maryland's offensive losses this past season, losing pretty much everyone offensively except for Kyle Long, and then role players that put up huge numbers because of the star players and what they were doing and facilitating. So and you lose a Twarton winner. So, nothing new for the Terps. People are going to say they're going to rinse and repeat. I don't think it will be that easy. I don't think Bobby Benson's some like offensive genius that everyone was claiming he was last year. I think I could have walked out there and coached Maryland to that record with those kids. I think
Be a fun team to coach.
Like second line, no hiccup. Put in another attackman. It doesn't like you have the roster they had last year. I don't think deserved the coaching praise that it got. Am I a hater? Sure, but like you see Bobby Benson with absurd talent at Hopkins, just putting out under par offenses year after year, and he goes to Maryland with this like unbelievable redeemed
The
team
greatest college
roster,
offense ever assembled.
and everyone's like, "Oh, this
Deepest.
Bobby Benson like style offense." It's like, no, this has been there.
Yeah, it's a well-oiled machine.
If anything, it's the Tillman show. Offensively, especially.
Absolutely.
I know he's got a firm grip on the offense. So
On the entire program. I mean,
but
can't say enough good things about Tillman.
but I think they didn't get the transfers that they got last year this year. I think they're kind of riding with what they have. And transfers will be a big key in the next couple of years. Most definitely, but this year we saw them go other places.
We did. a few schools I want to mention in Terry Foy's top 20. I mentioned it earlier. We're not going to spend. We're not going to give them any more time than we did last year. But Michigan belongs nowhere near it. He's got them at 20. He's got Loyola at 19.
That's generous.
Yeah, I mean,
But they're
you
going to be
know,
good. They return everybody.
no, I
So,
think
I mean,
I
their
think giving
question mark
I
is,
think in the cage, right?
yeah, in the cage. And now with
Yeah.
the Savio reign coming to an end,
Yeah, that's an 8, 9 year run that
it's insane.
yeah, that needs to be talked about more, to be honest. You got Jacksonville in there. Jacksonville picked up some nice transfer. Dylan Watson's going to be a big pickup for them. They
Dude,
did
this
lose a lot.
Yeah,
Um,
but they also have their freshman phenom attackman coming back. I forgot his name, but that will be
Jacob Griner
Jacob
or Matt,
Griner.
or Wall. They have Griner and Wallbaum coming back, both studs.
Wallbaum does not come back.
Yeah, yeah, they do.
Wallbaum comes back?
Yeah, the attack returns intact with Waldbaum, Griner, and Jackson and Thierry, and they
Wat
add transfer
well,
Dylan Watson.
Watson will definitely be on that left wing.
Yep.
What do you have, like 78 goals last year?
One of those guys will be bumped up to the midfield. Jacksonville's going to be dangerous. Uh,
It'll,
they
yeah,
they did lose our boy six, Colin Hinton,
a
um,
dog, a
and
dog.
who was the keeper? The UNC transfer.
Uh, keep going. I'll get his name.
So I think Jacksonville's going to be a force to be reckoned with.
Luke
Yeah,
Mullen,
M- Milliman.
Luke
Yeah,
Milliman.
they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I think they're the SoCon favorite. I think the Spiders would obviously say something different. Again, this top 20 is littered with Ivy League schools. The Ivy League's going to be probably not quite as strong as last year,
And
but
they
will be
lose
very
Jack
strong.
Dolan.
Yeah, I mean, program stalwart, first guest, second guest on snapping towels. First guest,
First guess, epic first guess
first guest
in his
in the Jeep,
Jeep
in the Wrangler,
on the beach,
in the Wrangler. Yeah,
just snapping it around with teammates after practice.
hilarious. Yeah, he'll be a big loss. Great 5 year player for them, program player.
They got Hopkins first game of the year, by the way. I don't know what you're talking about when I was looking up Luke Milliman's name, but I saw that on their
That's
website.
fun.
And then they have Duke, both in Jacksonville.
Good for
I think we need to go down to Jacksonville that week of February 4th
and sit
to
on the
11th
Adirondacks.
and be on the, someone called it, oh, I forgot. Coincidentally, this kid, I start this F45 class, and this kid in the class, what do you expect? Nothing less. Jacksonville lacrosse shirt. Obviously, I tell him I'm a fan, to say the least. And I forgot the name he had for the Adirondacks because I brought him up, like who gets to sit in those. I wanted to know.
Boosters.
So the people funding.
Snapping Towels is a Dolphin booster. I
Very much
love that
so.
Terry Foy is giving love to Delaware. I know they return a
They're big.
lot.
Yeah. They're big pull.
Yeah, who was kind of brutal in that Cornell quarterfinal.
He's got gas. The way they played that fourth quarter was abysmal, but Cornell
It's interesting, man. He's got three Ivies, four Ivies in the top 10. Sorry, four Ivies in the top 7. Penn, Yale, Princeton at 7, 5, 6. Pick your poison there. And then he's got Cornell at 3. Cornell's going to be really, really dangerous. Like, they're a sleeper, and maybe not even a sleeper because they're preseason third in Terry Foy's poll, but they're a sleeper pick for a national champion. Their biggest loss is Piatelli, 66 goal scorer. But CJ Curse, I think he's PLL ready today, and I think he's a sophomore.
He was the MVP of the World Games. We'd even talk about that. There was the world, they called it the
U21. Yeah.
World Games that the USA ran through. They had a good game with Canada, I think, at the end. But a line of CJ Kirst and who's my Duke boy? Jesus Christ.
Brendan O'Neill.
Brendan O'Neill, the LeBron James of college lacrosse. Um, yeah.
I don't want to disrespect the Terps. I guess I'm okay with them being the clear cut number one just because of what they did last year and what they continue to do every year. But if I'm putting the poll together, I'm putting UVA at 1.
Mm. That's hard to argue with. I got to see who their transfers are.
Didn't they clean up in the portal?
I think they did. But yeah, I mean, you got to think Notre Dame and Duke are going to have different seasons than they had last year, being such a bust. And
Yeah, I mean,
UVA's second half of the season was horrendous.
Look, you can argue Notre Dame season was a bust. They had some big time wins.
I mean, their scheduling was the bust.
Yeah, that's just, as you know, we won't go down that rabbit hole again, but that's just ACC arrogance at its finest. The Jake Taylor injury is a big time gut punch. He tore his ACL this summer. Love Jake Taylor. Seemed like when he got his opportunity last year, he showed that he's an elite finisher. That's a big time loss for them. You got both Kavanaughs coming back. Losing Arden Cohen.
He's already in the PLL. He's on the Redwoods.
Yeah, losing Arden Cohen. They lost all three of their defensemen.
Yeah.
But they bring in Chris Fake from Yale, Jack Simmons from Virginia, and some kid who apparently is a big transfer pickup, Chris Conlon from Holy Cross. That remains to be seen. But I guess they cleaned up in the transfer portal. They addressed their need.
You get some gritty Holy Cross pole that's been.
He's been wearing black cleats and black socks for 4 years, and he's
grinding, kind of one of those guys that might check a little harder than you'd expect.
Yeah. Look,
but the hype behind Virginia,
I respect Holy Cross. Beat me my senior year.
I've took an L from the Crusaders.
Yeah, you took an L in the snow to Holy Cross. Yeah,
the Snow Bowl. But Virginia's hype comes from their freshmen being mixed in offensively with the ridiculous offense they already have. I think the rich got richer in that sense. I think the whole prop. What's up?
Go ahead. No, go ahead. Keep going. I'm going to talk about more rich getting richer in a second, but keep going.
Well, I just think the trouble was Cade Sawstead getting injured, and then the snowball effect that had. But you go.
Georgetown. Talk about cleaning up in the transfer portal.
I don't know what they got. It might be some Louisville basketball recruiting situation going on down there.
Is Patino a consultant for the Georgetown Hoyle lacrosse program?
I think he might be, or his consultant is now at Georgetown lacrosse. Yeah.
His hookup.
Yeah, they've got something going on in DC aside from probably a really great grad school that everyone wants to graduate from, but. Yeah, I don't know what that's about, but landing the whale, Tucker Dordevic.
Yeah, I would say he was probably the whale of the class. I think a really underrated.
Well, he could still be at Cuse. He left.
Right. Yeah, no, I know. I think the really, really underrated pickup. Losing a first-team All-American goalie, right? What was his name?
Owen McElreed.
Wasn't he first-teamer?
Yeah.
At least a one-time first-teamer, maybe a two-time. Owen McElroy. Picking up the Dartmouth goalie, who I watched several times because I was watching more Ivy League lacrosse than anybody in the country. That Dartmouth goalie, what is his name? The kid's an absolute stud.
I just saw it. Is it Dylan something?
He's a big body between the pipes.
He's a little bit like Fayok from Penn State.
He is.
But yeah, I agree that pickup.
That's the most underrated pickup because it's a really difficult thing at a position as important as goalie. It seems like only Maryland is the only program in the country that can continually replace All-American goaltenders every year. Oftentimes when you lose one, you feel that loss for the next 3, 4 recruiting classes. This transfer portal is just an incredible development to bring this kid in, who maybe he's not a first teamer, but I think it's safe to say. I mean, I would bet he will be an All-American goaltender this year. To have the experience that he has taking Ivy League rubber for as long as he did, I just think it's going to be a massively underrated transfer pickup. Also, I'm going to give love to Brian Minikis, Darien Blue Wave, Colgate Red Raider. Had an excellent career at Colgate. Gave the Patriot League a lot of issues, polls a lot of issues. Will be a really nice pickup for Georgetown, even more so than Nicky Pekovic was 2 or 3 years ago. Nicky Pekovic, a Colgate attackman, came in, had I think doubled his point production at Georgetown than he ever did at Colgate. But yeah, another nice Colgate transfer for the Georgetown Hoyas. I think they bring back Bundy, Trippy. I think Georgetown could win a national championship next year.
They also added Nate Solomon and
the UNC kid.
And what's the other kid's name? The lefty, number 9, who we were down on last year because he played like shit. Kelly. Yeah. So I think it'll be interesting with them. It sucks that some league, like it's the problem in the NCAA. Like, not every school has grad programs. Not every league accepts grad transfers.
Yep.
Putting these teams, these universities or leagues that don't accept grad students completely behind the 8 ball. There's a little rumor that Watson wanted to just go to Loyola after Georgetown.
Patriot League.
Now he's in Florida. So it's tough. He would have been a nice little throw-in after the loss of Lindley.
Danny Hinks is the Dartmouth goalie.
That's what I thought it was, but I was looking at the roster. Hinks. Yeah.
Kid's an absolute stud. That's a huge pickup when you're losing a guy.
He has 2 years too.
Yeah, when you're losing a guy like McElroy and bring in a seasoned, proven Ivy League commodity. I think Georgetown and Cornell, I think, are poised to really challenge Virginia and Maryland this year. I think that's a real possibility.
I think I mentioned it too. Virginia's freshman class, I think, was the number 1 recruiting class. I could be wrong on that, but I know
I think they were too. Also, in other recruiting news, they poached Mark Millen's son from Duke, I believe. Correct?
Yes.
He's not coming in next year. He's still a junior, but maybe is he a senior?
He's a senior this year.
Is that the second number 1 recruit wasn't Schellenberger committed to Duke as well?
I don't know that news, but we could get.
I think Schellenberger was a poach as well by Lars.
No, I thought he was a UVA guy through and through because didn't his dad play there or something like that?
I'm not sure. We'll get our
facts straight.
Yeah, we'll get our statistician to check in on that. We are a little rusty. Excuse us. We're just breaking it in for season 2, episode 1.
Just painting a little picture on what you could see. A little touch on the Patriot League. Boston University brings back everybody. They're the clear favorites.
The Long Island Express are back in Boston.
Tommy Lay.
I think they're my favorite too. You can't ever count out Charles Toomey and the Loyola Greyhounds, but I think the Boston University Terriers, with Patriot League championship experience, NCAA tournament experience, I think maybe getting shellacked by a really good Princeton team in the first round might even be a good experience for those kids. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to be dangerous, really, for anybody. I'm really looking forward to this year because I feel like it's a much more wide open field.
Yeah,
Maryland last year, best college team I've ever seen. I've been watching college lacrosse for way too long, and that was the best team I had ever seen. And it just felt like the whole entire year, Kyle and I were having fun with these episodes, but they were almost pointless because we knew who was going to win the national championship. This year, I think it's wide open. I think the field is 9, 10, 11 deep in terms of who can actually put together a Memorial Day run. So can't wait. It starts tomorrow for me in Hudson, Ohio. Can't wait to watch the Buckeyes.
Yep.
I think the Buckeyes, are a
Little sleeper.
quarterfinal.
Little
They're a
sleeper.
quarterfinal contender. Um, they got some transfers in. Obviously, our boy Bobby Van Buren is going to be back. He's a sophomore this year.
Yep.
He was guarding number one attackman last year as a freshman. I think
Unreal.
he's going to be a stud defenseman for them for the next 3 years. Jackson Reed's a big loss, but the man at attack,
Jack Myers.
Jack Myers.
The short
He might,
stick, the short stick renegade.
yeah. Honestly,
That was the demise of Notre Dame. That
yeah,
one coaching decision.
that was obscene. That's true. That kept them out of the tournament.
But let's not go too much longer. This has been a good episode. A little
I'm
PLL
excited to see Jack
recap.
Myers in person tomorrow.
That would be great. Early season fall ball. It doesn't say much, but it says enough.
It doesn't say much, but it says enough. I would agree with that take. Yeah. Couldn't have said it better myself.
So that's episode 1, season 2, Snapping Towels. We're getting a new cartoon. Stay posted for that. It's going to be dope. Paul Vallant every year coming through with that design.
We'll get an interview.
I'm excited.
We'll get a kid in for an interview here in a few weeks. I'll be in a sling. I'm going to be on the physically unable to perform list, the pup list for the next couple of weeks. I'm getting my second shoulder labrum done. So We'll take a few weeks off, but we'll get a kid in for sure, and give us some real insight, not just two old dogs pontificating. We'll get a kid come in and tell us what's really going on behind the scenes.
Just a classic fall ball injury. Cam in the boneyard. You and me both. All right. Later.